He didn't talk much. Flannel shirt, old jeans, worn boots, and a faded ball cap with no patch. No brand names. No loud colors. No attitude. Just silence. Precision. And something no one noticed until it was too late. The young guys at the range thought he was just another retired trucker wasting ammo. But the staff knew better. There was something about how he moved, measured, watchful, like he was still behind enemy lines. They called him Pops or the old guy. He signed in every morning at 6:45. Always early. Never late. He'd write just one name, Martin. No rank. No small talk. Just a nod and a slow walk to lane 7, the farthest lane from the building. Away from Bluetooth speakers, ego contests, and noisy conversations. He brought only what he needed. One pistol case, a box of .45s, and a dented thermos that never left his bench. 30 rounds. No more. Never less. One morning, the range was busier than usual. A group of young Navy recruits came in off-duty, joking, laughing, full of bravado. Among them, a sharp-looking guy named Jared, lean build, crew cut, a trident patch on his gym bag. A SEAL trainee, just back from his first phase, prepping for advanced training in Coronado. He set up 2 lanes from Martin. At first, he didn't give the old man much thought. Just another civilian killing time. But then he heard it. Not the volume. Not the speed. The rhythm. 3 shots. Pause. 2 more. All perfectly grouped. All deliberate. No wasted motion. Jared glanced over. The old man's stance was textbook. His grip flawless. He wasn't reacting to the recoil. He was controlling it. Then Jared noticed something else. When the man reloaded, the sleeve of his flannel shirt shifted, just slightly, revealing a tattoo. Not a flashy one. No skulls. No flags. No unit slogans. Just 2 faded digits and a small, clean insignia. Jared's breath caught. That wasn't a tattoo you got in a parlor. It was one you earned, and only if you bled for it. He leaned over, cautiously. "Excuse me, sir, that ink on your forearm. Is that 1st Recon?" The old man didn't turn. Didn't smile. He just fired one last perfect shot, set the pistol down, then turned and locked eyes with Jared. His voice was low, barely audible. One time he said, "Just that." But Jared understood. It wasn't a brag. It was a warning. Don't push. So he didn't. But now he was watching. Every shot. Every movement. The old man wasn't fast. Wasn't flashy. He was something far rarer, precise. Every reload, every check was done with calm efficiency. No show. Just muscle memory and time. His friends kept joking nearby, comparing groupings. One of them, petty, laughed and said, "Hey, that old guy's not half bad, huh?" Jared didn't answer. Because he'd seen shooting like this before, only from instructors. The kind that didn't shout to command respect. The kind you automatically went quiet for. 15 minutes passed. Martin fired his 30 rounds. Not one missed the inner circle. Not one rushed. Then he pulled out a faded rag and began cleaning the pistol. Jared stepped forward again. "Sir, if you don't mind me asking, when did you serve?" The old man paused, locked the slide open, looked at Jared calmly. 66 to 74. Recon. Southeast Asia. Jared swallowed hard. It lined up. And that tattoo. That wasn't for bars. That was 1st Recon. Marine. Deep Op Forward Unit. Black radio. No names. No files. "You were in Laos?" Jared asked. Martin gave a quiet nod. Among other places. The sound of the range seemed to fade. The noise behind them dulled. A few of the recruits nearby started to pick up on the mood shift. 1 or 2 stopped firing. "Did you ever train with the SEALs?" Jared asked. Martin allowed the faintest smile. "We all did a little of everything back then. You swam. You survived. Or you didn't." Jared couldn't help but grin. "Sir, my CO told us about an op in 71. Deep jungle extraction. The team lead was wounded, but still carried 2 men out under fire. said it stayed classified for years. Martin didn't blink. A lot of things stayed classified for years. And just like that, the door closed again. Not rudely, just enough to say, some stories aren't told. They're carried. Like rounds never fired. Names never written on medals. Martin stood, stretched, zipped his bag. Jared stepped aside instinctively. A few other shooters looked up. Something about the young SEAL's posture told them the man leaving wasn't just Pops. As Martin passed, Jared did something rare. No joke. No sarcasm. He snapped to attention. Martin paused, looked back. Jared's voice was clear, respectful. "Thank you for your service, sir." Martin nodded once, then left, silently as always. "Sir, thank you for your service." Truly. Martin studied Jared for a moment. Then, without a word, he walked back over, slow, deliberate, and placed something into Jared's hand. It was heavy. Real. A coin. On one side, the first Recon insignia. On the other, a single word. "Still here." Then Martin leaned in, voice low and calm, like a message passed between generations. "You'll know when it's your time to go quiet. Until then, earn it." He turned and walked away. No salute. No handshake. Just a man disappearing into the morning sun, leaving behind a silence louder than any war story he could have told. Martin was gone before most of the others even noticed. No goodbye. No nod. He picked up his range bag, tucked the thermos under one arm, and disappeared, like the morning had finished with him. Jared stood there for a long time, the weight of the coin still resting in his palm, his brain spinning faster than his pulse. He'd seen men try to fake valor. He'd seen posers wear stolen patches and made-up ranks. But this was something else entirely. The coin wasn't decorative. It wasn't mass-produced. It wasn't even supposed to exist. "Yo, Jared," someone called from a few lanes down. "You good?" He didn't answer. Not right away. He slowly turned, walked back toward his group, and held out the coin. No words. They gathered around him, expecting a joke or a punchline. Then they saw the insignia. Recon. Old school. Vietnam era, someone muttered. They all went quiet. "No way that's real," Petty said under his breath. Jared nodded. "It is." Another guy frowned. "Who gave it to you?" Jared looked over at the now empty Lane 7. "The one they'd all ignored. The man you laughed at," he said. "The one you thought was just some old guy." He paused, voice firm. "That was Staff Sergeant Thomas Martin." No one replied. They didn't have to. The silence in their throats said more than any words ever could. Jared walked back to the front desk, the coin cradled in his hand like it was sacred. The guy behind the counter was sipping coffee, scrolling his phone. He looked up casually. "Everything all right?" Jared placed the coin down gently. "You know this man?" The clerk squinted. "That the old guy from Lane 7? Jared nodded. "Martin." "What's his first name?" The guy turned to his screen, tapped a few keys. "Let me check. T. Martin. Been coming here nearly 10 years. Pays cash. Never missed a payment. No email. No phone number either. Old school." He paused. Says here he marked, "Do not publish name for recognition events or honors." That's rare. Jared leaned in. "You know why?" The clerk shrugged. "No idea. Only thing he's ever said to me was the first time I thanked him for his service. He looked me dead in the eye and said, 'I didn't do it for you to thank me.'" The guy laughed nervously. Didn't bring it up again. Jared didn't laugh. He just stared down at the coin again. Then, without another word, he walked out of the building. That night, he couldn't let it go. He tried to sleep. Couldn't. Around midnight, he fired up his laptop and dove into the archives. Declassified logs, old MACV records, redacted PDFs buried in government folders. Hours passed. Most names were blacked out. Some dates were intentionally wrong. But eventually he found it. Just one line. No medal. No news report. Staff Sergeant Thomas Martin. 1st Recon, Laos, March 6, 1971. Extraction under fire. recovered 7, refused medevac, wounded twice, declined award, classified, asset considered irreplaceable. Now, silent. That last word hit Jared like a punch to the chest. Silent. That was the mission back then. You didn't talk. You didn't write books. You didn't post about your trauma. You carried it. Quietly. Forever. Martin had carried it all the way to that plastic bench at the range. Through decades of being just another man in a flannel shirt. But now Jared knew. And so did the others. The next time Martin showed up at the range, everything had changed. Same truck. Same time. Same quiet steps across the gravel. Same clipboard. Same signature. Martin. But when he walked past the recruits this time, they stood straighter. They watched. No one laughed. No one joked. He nodded once toward the desk. Lane 7 was waiting for him. In his hand, the same old range bag half-zipped. Inside it, one pistol, one box of 30 rounds, and a silence louder than any salute. The battered thermos was tucked in the crook of his arm as always, but today something in the air felt different. Jared was already there. And not just him. 3 others from his team had arrived before sunrise and waited near the back bench. They didn't say a word when Martin walked past. Didn't interrupt. They simply stood a little straighter, gave him a quiet nod, and watched. Not the way you watch an old man. The way you watch an instructor. Martin said nothing. He pinned his target, adjusted his stance, calm, deliberate. But he noticed the shift. It wasn't the gunfire. There was plenty. It was the tone. Less chatter. Less swagger. More patience in how magazines were loaded. More silence between shots. A subtle current of respect. Midway through his second string of fire, Jared stepped over. Not casually this time, calm, composed. He waited until Martin's volley ended. Then, quietly, he extended a sealed box of .45 caliber rounds. Martin glanced at the box. Then at Jared. No smile. Just a question in his eyes. Jared met it with a simple sentence. I figured. 30 wouldn't be enough today. Martin nodded. Not quick, not dismissive, real. He accepted the box, reloaded without a word, and resumed firing. 3 shots. Pause. 2 more. The rhythm hadn't changed. It was still the rhythm of someone who'd learned long ago how to move only when it mattered. Later, after the brass had settled and the smoke faded from the air, Martin sat on the bench, thermos in hand. One by one, the younger men passed him. Not as a group, not in formation, but individually. A nod, a handshake, a quiet, respectful sir. Nothing rehearsed, nothing forced. Even Petty, the same kid who cracked jokes a week ago, approached slowly. He lingered longer than the rest. Cleared his throat. We looked you up. Some of us. You saved a lot of people. Martin wiped the rim of his thermos with his sleeve. They saved each other, he said softly. Petty opened his mouth to respond, then thought better of it. He just nodded and walked away. Jared stayed behind. He sat beside Martin on the bench. Both men stared downrange at nothing in particular. They didn't speak for a while. Finally, Jared broke the quiet. You ever think about teaching? Martin exhaled slowly. I spent 30 years trying to forget everything I'd teach. A pause. But some of us need to remember it. He took another sip. The sky had deepened, sunlight catching floating dust in the air. The kind of silence that feels like memory. Then Martin turned slightly. You don't teach this, he said. You absorb it. Quietly. Over time. Jared nodded. That's why I'm still listening. Martin studied him longer this time. Then stood. Then don't talk so much. They both chuckled softly. When Martin walked away, he left the sealed ammo box sitting on the bench. A small gesture, but it said everything. That afternoon, the range staff made a change. They took a small brass plate, no bigger than a business card, and screwed it into the wood above Lane 7. It didn't say hero. Didn't say legend. Didn't even say Recon. It just read, Lane reserved until he says otherwise. Martin never asked who put it there. And he never told them to take it down. Some men teach with words, others with presence. He never told war stories, never raised his voice, never asked for thanks. He showed up, fired 30 rounds, and left more impact than most men do with hours of speeches. He never needed to prove anything, not to the range, not to the young men beside him, not even to the world that forgot to ask. But when one of them finally looked closely enough to see the truth beneath a sun-faded sleeve, the silence broke. That's the thing about real warriors. They don't advertise. They wait until someone wise enough notices. The way they stand, the way they move, the way they don't need to be seen to matter. Martin didn't need a biography, didn't need applause. All he needed was that one recruit who asked the right question. And from that moment on, every round Martin fired taught more than any lecture ever could. So now I ask you, have you ever met someone like Martin? A veteran who never bragged, never boasted, just stood quietly, carrying history in his hands, while the world forgot, until someone remembered. Say their name in the comments. Tell their story. Let others know who they were, before the silence. Because here at Human Stories, we believe the most powerful stories don't shout. They wait. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, subscribe, share, and help us keep these voices alive. And if you ever find yourself on a range, and you see an old man reloading slow, standing alone in lane 7, watch his stance. You might be standing next to history.